Private message is a private message. And if a person who was on the private message wanted to be public, that person would have made it public. And unfortunately, when you die, you don't have a choice to make it public or private.
A group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange. But I did share it with some people in government because it happened really quick. It was, it took 33 hours for authorities to get their suspect. And in those first moments, we wanted no stone unturned. We wanted to leave nothing unturned.
Did this have anything to do with who killed Charlie? So any effort, in my opinion, to promote this as a thing is literally spitting on Charlie's grave, in my personal opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I want to address the text messages that were leaked. And I'm going to be honest, you got to give some credit to Candace Owens for bringing receipts from what she said. I don't like that the text messages were released, but let me just add this, because Andrew in the podcast said that this was the screenshot that he took and disseminated to other people, which somehow this got in the hands of Candace Owens, and Candace Owens put it out on the internet. So it doesn't appear that this somehow came from Candace initially getting into the system and finding this stuff. It came from Andrew, who screenshotted this and sent it to somebody that ended up getting in the hands of Candace Owens. Or maybe he sent it to her directly. I don't really know. But let me give my thoughts on the existence of the text message, what I think, and then we're going to get to Andrew Kovit's response of the text message, and I want to play Rob McCoy's statement as well. I do not like this drama because Charlie Kirk cannot defend himself. He's dead. So whether he liked Israel, didn't like Israel, whether he was going left, right, down the middle, none of it matters because he cannot defend himself and he's no longer with us. So his strive to be in a certain position or take a political stance, it really is irrelevant at this point, unfortunately. And I don't like the leaking and screenshotting and sending information out on the internet into the ether, simply because a private message is a private message. And if a person who was on the private message wanted to be public, that person would have made it public. And unfortunately, when you die, you don't have a choice to make it public or private. So that's why I think it should remain private. Listen, family, your information is out there floating around the internet right now. I'm talking your home address, your phone number, even information about your family. All of that personal data is sitting on shady websites being sold by people who don't care about you. That's how scammers pull off identity theft. That's how hackers and stalkers find folk like you. But here's the deal. They can't mess with you if they can't find you. That's why I use Incognito. They go after those data brokers, the ones selling your information, and they get it taken down automatically. And if you spot your information on some random site, Incognito's got you. With their custom removal features, you just point it out and they'll scrub it off the internet. The best part is they don't just do it once, they keep working in the background so your data doesn't pop up again. So stop giving scammers an open door into your life. Protect yourself, take your data back. All you gotta do is hit the link, incognito.com/Tatum, use my code Tatum and get 60% off your annual plan. Does this have anything to do with who killed Charlie? So any effort, in my opinion, to promote this as a thing or promote this as important is literally spitting on Charlie's grave, in my personal opinion.
There's discussion about his views on Israel. What I can tell you is that Charlie believed, and I was with him in Korea. That was the last trip we took. It was last week. And he was wanting me to go to Israel to start a work there. That was his request of me. And I know that he believed the Jews had an ancestral right to the land. He believed that Jews are God's chosen people. He believed in the sovereignty of Israel. He also believed Ezekiel 37, that there was to be a political nation first and a spiritual nation second. And so he would be accused of being an anti-Semite because he would separate that you can question the political government of Israel, but you stand with the realization that the Jews are God's chosen people. They have an ancestral right to the land, but you can also, like we do with our own government, call them out when they're wrong. And I was on a text stream with him and Orthodox rabbis and Orthodox believers And he would lay this out. He would lay it out, and he would glean from that, and then you'd be on the other side where he's trying to understand, Tucker's position and everyone else's, because he was trying to build a bridge for young people 18 to 30 that were non-traditional conservative voters.
Right.
These are kids that were sick and tired of watching their peers die in the 1040 window in the Middle East in wars put forward by the industrial war complex, and to see them dying in villages and hamlets of the names they couldn't pronounce, and then abandon them and come back, and they're still the walking wounded because they've got PTSD, they've lost friends. And what did they fight for? And they leave billions and billions of dollars in American equipment. They were disillusioned, a distrust for the government.
Mhm.
And this is what Charlie always pushed.
Yeah.
Don't let your distrust of government exceed your trust in God. It's okay to question, but trust the Lord.
We shouldn't be wasting our time talking about stuff like this, but since it's out there, I got to say something about it, okay? So let's get to the context of what it says here. It appears that Charlie Kirk in his message says that, and this is authenticated, it's an authentic message, so this is not somebody didn't fabricate this. This is what was said. Now, I don't think it has all the context because clearly it is just a few exchanges. Where's the rest of the messages at, right? So what it says here, it says, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker Carlson. Let me address that real quick. I disagree with anybody that says that it was a problem that a Jewish donor decide to go in a different direction with their money after having an anti-Semite on stage at Charlie Kirk at Turning Point events. This is not about if Charlie liked the guy or not. He could be friends with the guy all he want. But when he's spewing anti-Semitism on stage and literally taking the next generation of young people in a bad direction, making them hate the government, making them question everything the government does, that's a problem. That's not what we need for the next generation. So if you are a donor and you're giving $2 million a year and you got somebody on stage like this that's antithetical to the organization that you're supporting, I don't see there be a problem whatsoever with saying, well, I'm not spending my money in this way. And I don't know why anybody would get upset with that. Just find donors that want to do what you want them to do. Why would you get mad at donors who don't want to do the things that you said you were going to do for them? I'm my own man. I do all my own stuff. This is all my money going. So nobody can tell me nothing. And I ain't taking no money for nobody to tell me nothing. But if I were to say,
before you get into that, Officer Tatum, just a quick question. I agree with you. If somebody has a donor and the donor wants to push a particular agenda and your agenda no longer aligns with that, then the agenda can pull their money. I mean, the donor can pull their money. The donor, that just makes sense. But I'm not sure that's what we're actually talking about, or how Officer Tatum is presenting it is in the way that people are demonstrating that they're having an issue with it. And I'm saying that because if that's the case, then you would be acknowledging that Charlie Kirk was moving in a direction that did not align with these pro-Israel donors. So maybe not Officer Tatum saying this. My question would be to everybody who has had something to say about Candace Owens, about Tucker Carlson, about Dave Smith, when they say that Charlie Kirk was moving in a direction away from the pro-Israel energy that he was previously demonstrating, wouldn't that be consistent based on the point that Officer Tatum just made? Matter of fact, what better way could we prove it other than showing that the pro-Israel Zionist donors started to pull their money? Obviously, Charlie Kirk is extremely valuable when it comes to his influence. I think we've seen that from everybody after his passing, especially when it comes to Netanyahu, pro-Israel Zionist people. We're seeing that. We saw Netanyahu, how quickly he decided to jump in front of this, how many times he's answered questions on these things, right? We're seeing how Charlie Kirk, a white Christian American's life, a whole bunch of people, his life is getting caught up in this Israel-Palestine debate. That's for a reason. So if the donors are pulling their money, doesn't that directly prove the case that Candace, Tucker, and Dave Smith are making, as far as Officer Tatum is saying? The donors started pulling their money. That's consistent with what Tucker Dave Smith and Candace have been saying. Charlie was moving in a new direction. And if you look on the group chat, they're saying, please don't invite Candace. Charlie's saying that he's thinking about inviting Candace. So you're right, Tatum. Donors can pull their money. And Charlie Kirk obviously felt strongly about it to the point where he's saying, didn't he write something about them exhibiting all this Jewish stereotypes or something like that? I believe I saw something like that. Maybe it's not in this one. Come on now. You're right. Charlie Kirk was moving in a different direction. All of this stuff is starting to align. And if people weren't acting so weird, if Netanyahu wasn't trying to politicize this death of Charlie Kirk, then perhaps people wouldn't be looking at it the way that we're looking at it now. But see, the thing about Officer Tatum is there's nothing that can be said, nothing that can be done for that he's going to go against Israel. Now, he may pick and choose whether, oh, well, that's Netanyahu or that's the government of Israel. For him, it seems to be the same. It's biblical for him. His interpretation of particular scripture says that he can't go against Israel. And that's the behavior that he exhibits. So he can only look at it through one lens. And only looking at it through that lens is always going to land him in the same position. But in my opinion, it creates a whole bunch of blind spots for him, like the one that I believe I just pointed out. You're absolutely right. They can pull their donations when things don't align with the message that they're pushing. So if they're pushing pro-Israel, pro-Zionist messaging and they're pulling their money, then what should we take from that? Let's keep going.
Well, let's have an investment or investors. And an investor says, okay, Brandon, I really like what you're doing, man. I like how you stand up for Israel. I like what you do for law enforcement. I like how you're conservative. And I want to give you $2 million a year for the next 5 years to help you build your platform and help you build your company. And then year 2, I start platforming people who are anti-Semitic. I start giving credence to people who are saying things that are antithetical to the mission in which the donor started or the investor started with me on. And investors say, look, man, I don't want to invest in this anymore. Why am I going to get mad at them? Well, don't invest with me. I'll find another investor that believe in what I want to do now. Then it goes on, and Charlie Kirk says the key point that I think everybody is honing in on, and that's that it leaves me no choice but to leave the pro-Israeli cause. Now, let me tell you what it don't say. This does not say that Charlie Kirk don't support Israel anymore. It's saying that he's not going to put his neck out there and take the arrows that are coming his way, standing up for Israel and making it the main thing of what he's saying when he's defending Israel on campus all around the country. Now,
You see what happens when you start interpreting things? So he's saying that, oh, people are trying to interpret it one way, but then this is what it really means, what Charlie's trying to say. When he says, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause, Officer Tatum sitting here saying, oh, that doesn't mean that he was, changing his thoughts on Israel, that he was going against Israel. What exactly would most people take away from that? Especially when you add the context. When you add the context of this group message, forget adding the context of everything that we've heard from Tucker, everything that we've heard from Candace, everything that has now been confirmed, by the guy that works for Turning Point USA. When it comes to Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk's relationship, think about everything and then totally disregard that and just look at this text message exchange. Leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Jewish donors play. Oh, yeah, it does say this. Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this. Just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Officer Tatum, are you choosing to ignore what Charlie Kirk is actually saying and then choosing to give your own interpretation that aligns with your agenda, that rationalizes your perspective? Or are you just taking Charlie at his word? Because I'm just looking at the words and I'm looking at just the words that Charlie wrote. And clearly there was a change being made, which Officer Tatum pointed out the obvious connection when Jewish pro-Israel, pro-Zionist donors are taking away their money. because Charlie Kirk is platforming people that do not align with their agenda and their cause, and Charlie Kirk saying that it's leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. What else are we supposed to take from that?
I'm gonna give my 2 cents. There is no donor, there is no pro-Israeli person that's gonna make me change my position on supporting Israel because it's biblical. Unless the Bible change, I will never change my support for the state of Israel and its existence. I don't have to like anything Benjamin Netanyahu does, although I think that what he's doing in the war is reasonable. I don't agree with everything he's doing. I think he should have finished the job 2 years ago. Now, of course, it's easy for me to say sitting behind my desk in the United States of America versus being the president or prime minister of a major country that's in the middle of conflict with just about everybody that's around. I will never change my stance. I don't care how much backlash y'all do. I don't care how much $7,000 messages y'all put in the chat. I laugh every time you put that in the chat. Do you think that bothers me that you say I'm getting paid $7,000? I don't bother me because ain't nobody paying me nothing.
All right, I want to add some things when he's talking about biblical. So just so people are aware, this is the same conversation that Tucker Carlson was having with Ted Cruz, where Ted Cruz couldn't even say where he was commanded to be good to Israel, where that comes in the Bible. So it's Genesis 12, 1-3. I'll read it. It says, the Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. That's what they interpret as God said, be good to Israel. Somebody feel free in the comments to educate me on connecting or filling in the areas that start off here and then get to God said be good to Israel, and then also connect the dot and fill in the blanks or fill in whatever substance you want to fill in where that take God said be good to Israel to be good to Netanyahu in this current state of Israel. Like, even just from a common sense standpoint, do we think that the people in Israel right now are the very same people that this Bible is talking about, like the descendants of these exact people? I'm just asking. Because when you look at the people in the region, they don't typically look like. I'm not going to get into that because y'all will tell me that intermarriage and all this other stuff and the skin was lightened by being in a colder area and stuff. You could say all that stuff, but it doesn't, like, whenever I do the research, it says that it's very unlikely that could happen. Very unlikely that could happen. So when we talk all this Semitic talk and who's the real I believe that when they do the DNA studies, that the actual Palestinians have more of a connection to the original Semites than the Jewish people who are in Israel right now. I mean, isn't that pretty much confirmed? So I don't know. Like I said, with Officer Tatum, he just believes what he believes. And this is an example of why religion can be so powerful. And with that power, there's a pro, there's a con, there's a negative, there's a positive. Where it can set you free, it can also oppress, right? Where it can free you from chains and shackles, it can also be extremely dangerous, right? Because you will then rationalize doing any and everything to protect your religion to where you go to the point where you violate God's commandments. So Officer Tatum wants to interpret this in a way, Genesis 12, 1-3, that aligns with the view that he wants to have, his current perspective, right? But he won't take literally the Old Testament when it says thou shalt not kill, right? Or that's telling us not to kill. So these are some of the questions that I have for a lot of these religious folk that seem to pick and choose their interpretations based on whatever current narrative they want to align with. So just some thoughts. Y'all tell me where I'm wrong, as always, and we'll go from there.
And to be honest, if they wanted to pay me to say stuff I'm already saying, where can I find that check? I'm going to give a bonus to every single person that worked for me every $7,000 check I get. That's what I would do if they were to give me some money. They ain't give me no money. That's why I ain't got to be mad at nothing. Y'all can keep saying that old weirdo stuff. I'm going to keep growing. My company's going to keep growing. We're going to keep succeeding. The Lord is going to keep blessing. So why do I care what you're saying about me? Most of y'all sitting in your mama basement somewhere, mad at your life. That's why you still follow me. I'm looking at people online say all that stuff and they still following me. Why you still following me? Why you still wasting your time out of your day instead of playing with your kids and I don't know, living your life, generating wealth or whatever you should be doing? You on my stuff texting me like I'll be reading it. 99% of y'all write this stuff. I ain't reading that. I'm too busy grinding and making it happen to reach your little retarded messages. Okay, let's go on to the clip of Andrew and what he had to say about the topic here. Roll it.
But I want to take the start of this show to address some of the things that have been going around on public, namely about a group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. And I just want to address it head on because, that was a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic.
Time out. This is my problem with this. Because I didn't like that the text message was put out there. But then the question remains, in my personal opinion, is why does anybody need to be screenshotting and sending this out anyways? Potentially, this is how it got in the hands of Candace Owens to put out in the first place. So I think internally, nobody could be mad at the stuff getting out if internally the screenshots are happening there and disseminated anywhere. I think that was a big major flaw that happened with this text message scandal, is that it should have never been screenshotted in the first place and disseminated from anybody. But when you do that, it's in the hands of everybody now. And now the whole world can see these messages. That's just my 2 cent. Roll the clip.
And I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friend's trust in that way. But I did share it with some people in government because it happened really quick. It was, it took 33 hours for authorities to get their suspect. And in those first moments, we wanted no stone unturned. We wanted to leave nothing unturned. So I shared it with a few people. Don't know where it went from there, apparently. But
Keep going.
Here we are. So,
all right, there you go. All right, come on, Nick. All right, so so what would I say about this? I can see the naysayers coming out and saying this. And by the way, I love Andrew. I think he's one of the most authentic people I met. I love him to death. But this text message thread, screenshot, sent to government officials. Why? What in it needs to be investigated? That's all I'm saying. What about this text message that needed to be investigated? Was it that somebody thought that they needed to investigate Jewish donors? Did somebody come out and think that they need to be investigated, that maybe, just maybe, Charlie Kirk's theology has something to do with him getting killed? Maybe, just maybe, is the text thread exposing certain people in the text thread that they need to be investigated? What does that even mean? I personally believe that, I don't know, it just makes things more complicated because people are saying, was there concerns about anything in the text? When I read the text, there's nothing really concerning that the government should know about or that the FBI should investigate personally.
This is why Candace Owens has the following that she has, because people acting like Officer Tatum. These are friends of Charlie Kirk. Friends of Charlie Kirk. You just saw Charlie Kirk get shot in front of the world and killed. And then you see the behavior afterwards of Turning Point USA, of Erica Kirk, of Netanyahu, of a memorial that had no friends and family of Charlie Kirk speaking, but it looked like a Republican convention outside of Erica Kirk, of course. We see all this weird behavior. We see everybody trying to make it seem, Netanyahu, Josh Hammer, like Charlie Kirk did not change his opinion on certain things. We see people call Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith crazy for just saying certain things that obviously may align with reasons why somebody may have wanted to get him out of here. But then we act stupid when we're just trying to be oblivious to something right in front of our face, like in my opinion, what Officer Tatum is doing. Bro, how is this not relevant? You don't find it weird that Netanyahu put up a post about Charlie Kirk's passing before Trump did? You don't find it weird that Netanyahu jumped on TV trying to, broadcast a letter? You're talking about you got an issue with this. Did you have the same issue with Bibi Netanyahu showing the letter that Charlie Kirk wrote him, a private letter? Did you have that same energy towards the letter? Or do you have that same energy just towards this? Because perhaps this is the reason why this came out. Because you have private conversations and letters written to Bibi Netanyahu that go further back than these text messages portraying Charlie Kirk as, oh yeah, Charlie Kirk was still, pro-Israel, still rocking with Israel, still the same, nothing changed. And to me, to be totally honest, that's what the letter read. The letter read more about pushing Bibi Netanyahu and Israel to do better with the propaganda that they're putting out and using influencers in a better way to make Charlie Kirk's pro-Israel events and stances easier and not so easily challenged, I should say, when it comes to people calling out the obvious. Charlie Kirk is not stupid, just like most of us aren't stupid. You look around, most Americans, look at all the polls. Most Americans are not okay with what Israel's doing. Most Americans just don't have the mindset that Officer Tatum has and says, oh, it's biblical. I'm supporting Israel no matter what. Nobody's ever going to change my mind. When you have people that say stuff like that, nothing's going to change my mind. You're limiting yourself, bro. You're limiting yourself. You're creating blind spots for you that don't necessarily have to be there. And to me, you're actually making your argument even worse. Like you're pushing people away, in my opinion. If your goal is to get people on board with your stance, I don't know exactly what your goal is, but you're you're saying that you have an issue with this. My question again would be, did you have an issue with the letter? And the reason why this stuff is coming out, in my opinion, is because I do think that a lot of, some people may be moving in a political way on the Turning Point USA team and using whatever situation, whether it's Charlie Kirk's passing or any other situation, to promote them, to, keep their head underwater and just to focus on whatever their personal agenda is and personal goals are. While there's others, in my opinion, that actually want to find out what happened to them, that actually were on the inner circle and maybe a part of these conversations that were showing that there were a lot of angry people and upset about Charlie Kirk shifting his mindset, shifting his stance. You saw what the text read. We saw the text messages. They're playing into all these Jewish stereotypes. I'm going to have to leave this pro-Israel cause. I'm not canceling Tucker, thinking about bringing on Candace. It seems to align with all the things Tucker, Candace, and Dave Smith have been saying. And if it does, then how is that not relevant? Officer Tatum's trying to sweep it under the rug. You think he was killed because of his theology? Well, most influencers are killed because of their influence. And a lot of times their influence is shaped by their theology, right? Whether it's Dr. King, whether it's Malcolm X, whether it's Charlie Kirk, whether it's anybody else, has been in a lot of these situations, whether it's UEP Newton or UEP Newton's probably not the best example, like a Fred Hampton, JFK, like what Bin Laden, like however you slice it, that probably is the reason that gets most influential people, what turns them into martyrs. So I'm just not following the logic here when it comes to Tatum, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because when you are so fixated on one thing and proving your point and standing on it, while also trying to make sure that I'm still, cool with my homegirl Candace, to me, it just brings about a bunch of inconsistencies, but it happens. Let's keep it going.
And no stone unturned. I understand that point, right? But it does implicate that is somebody thinking that Israel has something to do with it. If that's the case, then I want people to come out and say, we initially thought that Israel had something to do with it. That's why I did this. I just want people to just say it. Just say it. If you thought that, just say it. What's the part that hurts testimony and credibility and rumors get started, it's because people attempt to navigate things in a way where they don't say something, but they said something that they didn't want you to think that they said after they said something that they thought about saying when they didn't say it. That's where the problem comes in at. Personally, if I was on this side of the table and I thought that Israel had something to do with it, I would say initially I thought Israel had something to do with it, so I wanted the FBI to investigate that part because my friend comes before Israel. That's the easiest thing you can say. But what happens when people start going around like this because they don't want to say certain things, now it opens up a window and now the conspiracies come in. Well, did it? Well, he didn't say that he didn't say that he didn't say that he was going to say it. Finish it.
It's very easy and convenient for Officer Tatum to be taking this stand saying, well, if I thought Israel had something to do with it and that's why I released the text messages, I would just say that. It's real easy and convenient for all of us. You know, that's like the armchair quarterback. If you think that your big homie just got assassinated in front of the world, somebody that's been super pro-Israel and made some changes or had some different, thoughts on it, maybe it was getting ready to go into a new direction. And you think, I'm going based on his logic, because he's saying like, hey, if you thought Israel, was responsible for it, then just say that and say, that's why I'm releasing the messages. If you thought that, we can all sit up here and say, I would just stand on it. I would just say it. I don't care if I just saw my big homie Charlie get killed. I'm pretty sure we'd all have some reservations as far as like, hey, is this the right thing to push? In my mind, what I'm thinking is when people start to say Erica Kirk, I've been a little bit critical of her, just pointing out some of her strange behavior, in my opinion, but perhaps that's because she just saw her husband, what happened to him. And now she's trying to just go along with whatever she can to make sure that her family's safe. Now, I would lean still the other way that I've been leaning and having these conversations, which it just seems her behavior seems so strange and she seems to be politicizing the event as well. Just being totally honest with y'all. I hope that doesn't come across offensive, but that's just me being honest. But I don't understand like Officer Tatum's like I don't understand his stance on this, why he can't understand. He's acting like, I would just say it. Well, you can understand how a guy may have some type of reservation if they just saw their homie killed, but or maybe not. Maybe I'm just not as courageous as Officer Tatum. I don't know.
One of the reasons, Blake, that I'm glad to have this now public, it was not mine to share publicly, but one of the criticisms we've received is that we don't care, we're not investigating every lead, we're not looking under every stone.
And let me be very clear. What he's saying, I would actually appreciate somebody standing up for me. So I'm not opposed to what he's saying, but I'm also being realistic, as if everybody's not built. If you work for the guy that is courageous enough to speak on these certain things, and even with Charlie, it seemed like he didn't voice a lot of these things publicly, or maybe didn't get the chance to yet. I'm all for it. Stand on it, speak on it. If you believe in God, let God protect you, right? But if you believe something, put it out there. But me being realistic, I don't think that it disqualifies it, is what I'm saying. I don't think it disqualifies what he put out there based on, and maybe that's not what Tatum's saying, but based on, it just comes across that way as to, oh, well, he didn't say it, put the message out there and just say, I think Israel had something to do with it. Maybe you just don't know. And just not knowing is enough to, hey, let's also, consider this, right? If we're detectives, we don't just start canceling out things before, that we have reason to start canceling them out. So y'all get what I'm saying. I don't even know if I needed to explain that.
And that somehow we're just like, sweeping things under the rug. And when I say that we want justice for Charlie more than anybody else, I really mean it, and no stone unturned. I mean, I don't know if you want to chime in on that part alone, but I have more to say.
Yeah, so it has been so frustrating to have people blow up about this.
Yeah.
And I've certainly stated publicly, the reason I haven't weighed in on things is I am an eyewitness to events, and they've said, don't comment on things because anything you say can mess that up. I don't want to mess up any trial for the person who did this.
We got one more clip after this, but related to it. But let me address that real quick, because I think it's important to hear. He said, I was an eyewitness to something, And the FBI saying don't talk about it. Why? Because it may compromise the case. That is key. And this is why a lot of people at Turning Point ain't saying nothing. Because if you were a part of the investigation as a eyewitness, or you have any leverage or any part of this investigation, you could screw the entire investigation up by running your mouth about things that are not privy in the public. I don't know how many times I got to say this. I want people to understand this clearly. When investigators are trying to get to the bottom of solving a crime, they cannot have people leaking and disclosing information that's only privy to the FBI, or only somebody involved in the investigation would know. Why? Because when they have a suspect B and they bring him in and they start questioning him or her, when the person start divulging information, they can make a clear determination. Whoa, how does she know about the bag that was left in the alleyway? We never made that public. So that means only a person involved in this case would even know that information. But when you start disclosing information like it's going out of style to everybody in the country, they don't have a good enough way to interrogate a person, because they don't know if that person authentically is involved and they know things, or they heard it on the internet. And for everybody out here saying they're covering up, no, they cannot disclose everything they know. Do you want the case to be thrown out? Do you want the killer or potential killer of Charlie Kirk to get away scot-free on technicalities and inadmissible evidence in the investigation? Or
let's stop playing games here. Let's stop playing games here, Tatum. People don't trust the FBI. Maybe one of those reasons is because you got the Epstein files, you got JFK, you got stuff coming out with 9/11, you got Bibi Netanyahu and Israel's influence on a lot of our politicians. Like, come on, bro. Like, this is like, now all of a sudden, oh, it's for the investigation. So if you can point out that a whole bunch of people from Turning Point USA aren't speaking out because they don't want to compromise the investigation, perhaps that was the reason, like this gentleman just said, why he initially didn't want to speak out, but they're choosing to do so now. They're choosing to leak certain text messages now, or whenever they did, right? They're choosing to do these things perhaps for a reason. Perhaps they don't trust the FBI and they believe that things are being covered up one way or another. Perhaps they think that things are being influenced one way or another. And based on Netanyahu's behavior, are we just going to ignore how he's acting? Are we just going to ignore how politicized this event has become? People trying to use Charlie Kirk's death to push whatever agenda, policy, political party. Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Like this, man, boy, it's stretching.
In the court proceeding, make your mind up. And I'm warning everybody that's out there that actually care about this case. If you don't care about Charlie, you don't care about this case, then do what you want to do. But if you care about Charlie, you care about this case, you care about justice, you need to stop putting information out there that could be compromising to this investigation. You could find yourself getting subpoenaed in the court as well. I said this on my last video. If you are out in the public domain saying that you're getting proprietary investigatory knowledge or information, that means you're talking to people that the FBI isn't talking to, or you're saying that a person called you and made a statement contrary to the statement that they made to the FBI, you are now a part of the investigation. The defense team wants you to come and testify that you heard this, because the prosecution is saying, no, we heard this. You're going to find yourself being involved and subpoenaed in the court, testifying on behalf of the defense, because you want to put information out there premature to the court proceeding. Finish it. Or roll the next clip.
The people that he had shared history with, right? He was asked, I think this may be what you were about to say, Blake. He was asked about Candace before in public, and he would always say, listen, we're friends. He would never say an ill word about her. And if people, tried to force him to do that about Tucker or whatever, he would always be defiant because he didn't want to be morally blackmailed.
Exactly. Charlie was loyal to people who had ever been friends to him, whether it was very old donors or just people who had worked with Turning Point.
Yep.
And as long as they were not attacking him, he would not air any dirty laundry or, frankly, any disagreements he had with people. He did disagree with Candace on the Israel issue. He disagreed with Tucker on the Israel issue. But he also recognized Tucker had positions they agreed on. Tucker was a useful voice in the conservative movement on many things. And so he invited him to events, and they were popular events. And so he would react. Sometimes people would just say, yeah, don't invite him, or we're going to, cut off some large donation. And that would make him angry. He would say this, as you say, this is moral blackmail. And he's this Scottish guy. He's combative. His reaction to that is, the classic, screw me, no, screw you, that sort of thing.
He had this, and it's one of my favorite parts about Charlie is just how defiant and independent he was.
Yeah,
he was never going to
be... He could not be controlled by other people.
You could not buy him, he was not bought and paid for. You could not control him with money. It just wasn't the way he was wired. He didn't actually care about money that much.
And so what's going on here? What is going on here, you guys can look up what the text say. What is going on is Charlie, as I mentioned, he loved Israel, he cared about Israel, he cared about the Holy Land, and he was aware there was a surge of anti-Israel sentiment on the right. Charlie thought seriously about this issue and was trying to chart a path forward for people who were sympathetic to Israel. He was playing the good cop here. He was saying, you guys don't realize how bad it could potentially get. You have to change your PR. That's why he writes a letter to Bibi. You are losing the PR war. You need to change how you do your PR. You need to change your messaging to the American right. You might need to change what you expect from us, that you're not going to be able to count on just, for example, unlimited military aid from America. That's just not going to be tenable going forward. So maybe it has to be a more passive relationship. Maybe you need to give more support towards America. Some more support towards America in, for example, opposing Islamic migration into America. That's one thing he thought we could ally on. And he was trying to do all of this because he cared about the relationship and wanted to chart a way forward on it. And he would feel angry and upset when people would react to this by blowing up and suggesting he was an anti-Semite or a hater. He would get angry about that because he knew it was untrue. And then he would sometimes vent about this. He would vent about this to people who understood that, who were pro-Israel people who shared his view on that issue.
Well, exactly. And just why I, didn't share this publicly, it was because this was a private message between Charlie and some people, some Jews and non-Jews, where he was, frustrated. He was frustrated, and that would have felt like a betrayal to my friend because he never said anything like that publicly in a show, right? He said things with Meghan that were very, we just played them. I went on Alex Clark's show, and I felt like I did a faithful job of expressing what I believed his genuine feelings were.
Okay, let me address this real quick, and then we can move on. But I agree. I understand Charlie. Now, I want you guys to understand this. I disagree with Charlie's sentiment and behavior on this topic, but I understand him because he's 31 years old. Charlie has never in his life been unpopular amongst his peers. Now, amongst the naysayers, they always hated him because they just the haters. But amongst his peers, Charlie Kirk was spot on everything that he said, and everybody loved him, and everybody agreed with everything that he was saying. When you start to feel the pressure that people are turning on you, it make you feel some type of way, especially when it's not accurate. I felt that way about Uvalde. I felt that way about when I was talking about Black Lives Matter. I felt that way when I defend police officers that I know didn't do anything wrong, and the world is telling me I'm lying. And then the police officers get off on the case. And then nobody apologizes and say, Brandon, you were right. But I know what that pressure feel like. Now, I'm a little more mature. I'm a little older than he is. And I got older kids and stuff. So I've been through a lot more. And that's why it don't make me waver, because I don't give a about what you say about me. I really don't. And yeah, you make me mad sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's not going to change my position. I'm not going to get all upset about this where I want to not do this or not do this and that. I mean, the more y'all talk noise about Israel, the more I'm going to say something. And it's not I'm going to say something because I'm defiant against you. It's the more that I got to keep banging the truth out because you people want to be silly about it. And so I just disagree with that portion of what Charlie said and how he operated in that moment. But it was a private message. Now, mind you, if I die, I'm going to be mad at y'all. Y'all better not ever share my stuff when I die, because some of y'all going to have your feelings hurt. If you know the stuff that I say and that I wrestle with or I'm arguing about, or people that make me mad that I don't say publicly, because sometimes you can vent to your wife about things that people do that make you mad, that you don't want to be public because you're dealing with it in a private manner. I go to my wife and I complain about certain stuff, and then we talk about it and I feel better about it. There's some things that people do to me that make me mad. I'm not happy with everything everybody does, even organizations that I work with. I'm not always happy with the things they do and the way they treat me. But a lot of times I'm not going to say everything publicly because it's a private matter that you can address. And what I have learned as a young man growing up and learning and growing, things change. A conversation can change the way you think about something. One conversation. And so you get out in the public and you go, I'm done with this. I no longer do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And then you have a conversation with somebody, you're like, you know what? That kind of makes sense. You know, I'm not even mad no more. Now you got to get out in the public and go, all that I said yesterday, I was just mad.
Isn't he the same person that was saying earlier in this video that I don't care what anybody says, you're not changing my stance on this? It's biblical. So if a biblical scholar comes to you, maybe even somebody who's Jewish, of the Jewish faith, and says, hey, I think this interpretation, let me provide some more context. Let me provide some more understanding. You should do exactly what he just said. One conversation can change how we see the entire world, right? Can shift our thoughts, but that's not what he was saying earlier for the first 24 minutes of the video. So I don't even know if his team's calling this stuff out or asking him about this stuff, but it just seems very inconsistent, very inconsistent.
So when you have wisdom, you say, I got dirt on you. You said some stuff that was inappropriate to me. I got text messages on you, but why would I do that if it's not beneficial to anybody other than me getting back at you or doing gossip? I had to learn that. Thank God I didn't learn it. I didn't have to learn it while I was a social media influencer, but I had to learn it in life. So this is why stuff like this shouldn't even be public. But now that it is public, then we have to address these things. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on the text message that came out, the Charlie Kirk thing. And let me put this last part out here. I want y'all to understand this. It's not fair. Some people think it's not reasonable, but it's reality. Friendship runs deeper than politics. There are people that I disagree with that are my friends, and I love them more than I love politics. And I'd rather have a conversation with somebody who's my friend than to throw them under the bus in public and get all riled up and riled. But because when y'all done listening to me after I say something else you don't like, you will turn on me. My friend won't turn on me. When we done and we old and nobody care about what we talking about no more, your friend will be there for you. They will be there for your family. That's how Brandon Tatum is. I'm a loyal person. I'm going to be there for you and your family because our situation run deeper than politics. And the reason why is because some people want me to get out and bash certain people, and you don't really love me anyway. Because as soon as I say something you don't like, you unsubscribe. As soon as I say something that you don't agree with, I don't fool with Brandon no more. So why would I do something to make you happy when you ain't really got my back in real life? You got my back on social media when I'm saying what you like. I have been hurt by so many people that follow me on social media, but then people that don't follow me on social media that are my real friends have been behind the scenes supportive of me when y'all turned on me. So that's why when you say, why you don't call out so-and-so? Why you don't call out so-and-so? I call out the issue. I don't need to call out the person. Now, there are people that ain't my friends. Y'all know who they are because I call them out by name. That I don't care. There ain't no relationship. I can't vouch for their character. I can't vouch for who they are in reality outside of social media. I don't text them on the phone and have conversations. And that's why they get the full brunt of what I'm saying.
So clearly he's talking about Candace Owens and getting called out. And I understand from that standpoint, but one thing that I want to say is, Tatum, I don't agree with you. I still watch your videos. I'm still consuming the information and mature enough to say like, oh, I agree with certain aspects. I don't agree with this. Like, no, that's perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable. So don't allow you saying that you're not affected by all these comments, or you use the word retarded, people writing you messages. Yo, that's just a few people writing you messages, bro. A lot of us other people, even though you'll say like, yo, if you're writing these comments, why are you still following me? Why are you still? I'm not gonna write the comments in a negative way or an ignorant way and name calling and all this other stuff. But I will point out certain aspects of that, what I disagree, where I think that there's inconsistencies, where I think that there can be some growth from the conversation. And I'm only presenting that with my opinion, and you take with it from you want. you know, from whatever you want with it. That's how I look into it. So I don't know. I don't know. But y'all already heard my thoughts, man. We getting out of here. I'll see y'all soon. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Appreciate y'all always tapping in. Appreciate y'all rocking with me. And please write in the comments where I may be missing, where I may have some blind spots. I rely on y'all to call me out on certain things, whether it's calling out the point, calling me out personally. It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to make sure that I read what you're saying, process it, but always give some substance. Don't just say you disagree. Don't just say whatever else you want to say. Tell me exactly where I'm wrong, and perhaps maybe even tell me where, you know, how I should be thinking about it based on certain facts or certain perspective that you have. I'm definitely open to that. So I'll see y'all soon, man. Ew.